Moving into apartment 7B was supposed to be a fresh start. It was a pre-war building, charming in a dilapidated sort of way, with high ceilings and original hardwood floors that groaned underfoot like a slumbering beast. The rent was suspiciously low for the area, but I convinced myself it was just a lucky find, a diamond in the rough. The first few weeks were uneventful, filled with the usual unpacking and the rhythmic grind of city life outside my window. I even managed to ignore the peculiar draft that seemed to waft through the living room, even with the windows sealed shut, and the faint, almost imperceptible scent of something metallic, like old pennies, that clung to the air near the kitchen. I attributed it to the building's age, part of its charm. But then the sounds started. Subtle at first, easily dismissed. A soft click from the hall, a whisper of air, the faint suggestion of movement just beyond my closed bedroom door. I told myself it was the pipes. Old buildings, after all, have a language of their own. The creaks and groans of settling wood, the gurgle of water through ancient plumbing. But these sounds felt different, more deliberate. A light drag, like fabric against the floor, then a soft thud. Always from the living room, always when I was in my bedroom, trying to fall asleep. I'd freeze, listening, my heart beginning to quicken. I'd strain to hear it again, but it would always cease the moment I acknowledged it. One night, I got brave. Or stupid. I slipped out of bed, careful not to make a sound, and peered into the darkness of my apartment. Nothing. Just the faint glow of the city through the windows, painting the furniture in long, distorted shadows. The metallic smell, however, was stronger that night, a coppery tang that pricked at my nose. The sounds escalated. Now it wasn't just soft thuds, but distinct, rhythmic scraping, sometimes from the kitchen, sometimes from the living room. It sounded like someone dragging a heavy box across the floor. Or maybe something else. Something less definable, more organic. I started leaving the lights on in the hall, a feeble attempt to ward off whatever unseen thing was making itself at home. I'd jump at every shadow, every unexpected sound from outside. I even called the landlord, Mr. Henderson, a gruff man who smelled perpetually of stale cigarettes. He listened patiently, then scoffed. "Apartment's empty, miss. Always has been since the last tenant left. Old buildings make noise. Don't go imagining things." He made it sound like I was crazy. Maybe I was. Sleep became a luxury, and my nerves were frayed to a thin thread. Then came the breathing. Not a human breath, not exactly. It was too deep, too ragged, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the very floorboards. It started subtly, a barely audible hiss that would rise and fall, sometimes from the living room, sometimes the kitchen. One night, I heard it distinctly, directly outside my bedroom door. I froze, my body rigid, a primal fear seizing me. It was low, guttural, like something vast and heavy trying to catch its breath. I clamped my hands over my mouth to stifle a scream. I could feel the vibrations through the mattress, a faint tremor in the air. I stayed there, unmoving, until the first hint of dawn seeped through the curtains, too terrified to even turn on a light. I began to see things, fleeting glimpses, a shadow darting behind the sofa, a shape in the periphery of my vision when I walked past the hall mirror. I knew it wasn't my reflection. It was too tall, too gaunt, a silhouette against the dim light, gone before I could properly focus. My imagination, I desperately tried to convince myself. Stress, sleep deprivation. But the metallic smell grew stronger, sometimes sickly sweet, like decaying copper. I barricaded my bedroom door at night with a chair, a pathetic defense against an unseen force. I started to suspect Mr. Henderson knew more than he let on. Why was the rent so low? Why was he so quick to dismiss my concerns? There was something about apartment 7B, something sinister that clung to its old walls like a stubborn stain. I felt constantly watched, constantly pursued, even within the supposed sanctuary of my own home. One morning, I woke up to an unbearable stench. It was a putrid, sickening smell that made my stomach lurch. It smelled of decay, of something dead and rotting, and it was emanating from the living room. This wasn't the metallic tang anymore. This was visceral, undeniable. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled out of my bedroom, choking, desperate to open a window. The living room was in disarray. Cushions were overturned, a floor lamp was knocked over, and a large rug was rucked up in the center of the room, revealing a dark, damp stain on the hardwood beneath. My blood ran cold. The breathing was louder now, a wet, rasping sound coming from everywhere. It filled the apartment, a terrifying, omnipresent sound that promised something monstrous. Panicked, I grabbed my phone, fumbling to dial 911. My fingers trembled so violently I could barely hit the numbers. I needed help. I needed to get out. As I brought the phone to my ear, I heard a different sound, something I hadn't noticed before, buried beneath the guttural breathing and my own frantic pulse. A faint, almost melodic hum. It was coming from inside me. I dropped the phone, my breath catching in my throat. I looked down at my stomach, at the gentle rise and fall of my own body. The hum was there. The breathing was there. The metallic tang was there too. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from within. I pressed my hand to my abdomen. The rhythmic rasping, the deep, heavy breaths, they were mine. The movements, the subtle dragging, the thuds, they were me, shifting in my sleep. My body making noises I was too afraid to acknowledge as my own. The metallic smell, the decaying copper I'd been smelling for weeks, the sickening stench that filled the apartment. It was blood. My blood. I staggered to the bathroom, fear overriding all other sensations, and stared at my reflection. My skin was ashen, my eyes sunken and red-rimmed, but it was not my face that horrified me. It was the swelling. My abdomen was distended, grotesque, a massive, unnatural mound that seemed to have materialized overnight. My clothes were stretched taut, the fabric straining. It wasn't old plumbing, or a phantom tenant, or even a ghost. It was me. All along, it had been me, and the deep, heavy breathing, the faint thrum, the almost melodic hum from within, it wasn't just mine. It was the sound of two hearts beating, two sets of lungs struggling for air. And as the truth finally clicked into place, a new, chilling sound escaped my lips. Not a scream of terror, but a sound of dawning, desperate, profound despair for the thing that had been growing inside me, unnoticed, unacknowledged, until it was far too late. And now, it was ready to come out. The apartment wasn't empty. It never was. I was the silent tenant, the one who carried the horror within. Thank you for listening. If this story found you in the dark, subscribe and turn on notifications. A new tale waits every night.